As summer winds down, the highly transmittable Delta variant of SARS-CoV-2, which is now dominant in the US, is prompting questions about everything from when it will be safe to return to work to how to keep children safe in schools. For many people, summer travel plans are also in limbo. Today we'll have a closer look at these COVID situations regarding traveling. Don't forget to subscribe, let's head into it. On Tuesday, the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention changed its guidelines for fully vaccinated people, advertising that they wear masks indoors to places where there are high of substantial rates of transmission. The counties that meet that criteria make up about 2/3 of the US population. So is it even safe to travel? The answer completely depends upon your own individual circumstances, including your risk profile and tolerance. But the best thing to do if you're planning to travel is to make sure that every person in your travel party who is eligible is fully vaccinated, including all adults. The CDC recommends that you delay travel until you are fully vaccinated. Rules for vaccinated people who need to travel are strict. The CDC says unvaccinated people should get tested 1 to 3 days before traveling and again 3 to 5 days after returning, plus quarantine for 7 days upon returning home. Both vaccinated and unvaccinated people have to wear masks on planes, buses, trains, and other forms of public transportation, as well as inside transportation hubs such as airports and stations. Everyone should self-monitor for COVID symptoms. Can I bring my young kids? Travel is tricky for families with young children because vaccines are not yet available for children under 12. But if your kids are old enough to be able to wear masks on a plane, that certainly would help reduce the risk a little bit. You can also take steps to minimize your exposure to other people, such as driving in a car versus flying on a plane, and stick to outdoor activities at your destination. Is it safe to fly? Planes are inherently a little bit riskier. Because you're inside and close to many other people whose vaccination status you may not know, make sure that you're fully vaccinated before getting on an airplane. Because Delta is more transmissible than other variants, there's a higher probability, especially in those airport settings which are indoors, of putting you at risk and potentially transmitting it and spreading it. Everyone wearing masks, which is required on public transportation by federal rules, can reduce the risk of transmission. While masking is mandated and typically enforced by flight attendants while aboard the plane, you should also be careful while at the airport, where it's more crowded and mask wearing may not be closely monitored by staff. According to the CDC, short road trips with members of your household of fully vaccinated people with only a few stops along the way is a safer choice. How do I know how bad COVID is at a destination? The bottom line is that no destination is zero risk. COVID is just widespread everywhere, so there's going to be some risk regardless or if you're in a high transmission area versus a lower transmission area. Knowing the transmission rate at your destination is just one factor that can help you consider the overall risk for your trip. For example, if you're going to a state that the CDC has classified as a high or substantial transmission, you'll need to wear masks in public indoor settings whether you're vaccinated or not. Some places now have mask mandates. The CDC has a map that shows you the level of community transmission by county. You can also check the state or local health department's website for specific information about your destination. Also be mindful of the people you're traveling with and how their individual risk factors play into your decision. If you're planning on going somewhere where there's a very high rates of transmission and you have either unvaccinated children or adults who may be immune compromised or for otherwise high risk, it may be helpful to avoid that kind of travel or travel somewhere where there's maybe less community transmission. The CDC suggests that you refer to its travel recommendations by destination before traveling internationally. What about traveling outside the country? Certain countries don't have as much access to COVID vaccines, as you may be traveling to places where there's far less people vaccinated than here in the United States. And in most places other than the US, Delta is just as much of a concern, if not more so in some of the Asian countries. Additionally, rules and regulations are shifting as situations change around the world. On Wednesday, the UK announced that travelers from the US and EU no longer have to quarantine upon arrival to England or Scotland, and Canada will allow fully vaccinated Americans to enter the country starting August 9th, for the first time since March 2020. You have to be careful if you're planning for international trips because there may be changing travel restrictions coming up that we just can't predict at this point. Testing requirements, stay-at-home orders, and quarantine requirements also vary from place to place. Take the Caribbean islands, for example. Bermuda requires that unvaccinated visitors quarantine for 14 days upon arrival. Vaccinated people also have to quarantine in Bermuda until they receive a negative PCR test. But in the Bahamas, fully vaccinated people don't have to get tested or quarantined for entry. Another thing to keep in mind if you leave the country, the CDC requires any passengers coming to the US to have a negative COVID test result or documentation showing you've recovered from COVID before they board a flight to the US. If you enjoyed learning more about traveling during the pandemic, share this video with your friend and hit the like and subscribe button. Stay tuned to learn more about the fascinating places you can visit around the world. I'll see you in the next video.